Hello, welcome to the first episode of Maths is Fun. Today what I'm going to do is show you how to manipulate some very basic geometric figures. Let's get going. Okay, so we're going to be using some tools today. We're going to be using the compass, and we've got a couple of pencils. We've got a pencil sharpener which we're going to need. Now, what we don't want to be doing is we don't want to put holes in the table. So it says on the top of our sheet that we're going to use, place cardboard behind the side. That means behind this side of paper, we're going to have a piece of cardboard. So I'm going to put a nice mat behind our cardboard so that when I use the compass, it doesn't go all the way through and scratch the table. So that's the first thing. So all I'm going to do is put my piece of paper on there. Okay, so all it says is construct with a compass and a set square, and then it says construct the perpendicular bisector for all sides of the A. So this is a hexagon, and we are going to bisect each of the sides and then construct the perpendiculars. So there's a couple of words there that we want to look at. Perpendicular means that we are at right angles to. So if, for example, we were to wanted to go perpendicular to that line, then what that would mean is that a perpendicular line would be a line that is at right angles to that line. This is the point of having two pencils. Okay, so in your exam, when that happens, you've got another one to fall back on, and if disaster strikes again, you've got your pencil sharpener. But anyway, so the symbol normally for a right angle is you have a little square in the corner. Be a little bit straighter than that. So that would be the symbol. So that would be a perpendicular line. To bisect a line means that you go right into the center of that line. So if our line were, for example, from here is all the way down to 120, to bisect that, we will be looking at 60. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, my mistake. So we would be looking at 75, which would be there. So that would bisect the line. But to do that with a compass, how we would do that is we would open our compass so that it was bigger than halfway or further than halfway, and then we would get the point of our compass, making sure that our cardboard is behind the compass so that it will stick in, and we would put that point right on the end of our line, and we'd make a mark above and we'd make a mark below. The marks don't have to be that big, but it doesn't matter if they are. And then on this end we do exactly the same above and below, and then what we find is when we join those up, we just place our pencil there, get our ruler against it, and then line it up on the bottom one there. And when we do that, we'll find it goes right through the center. Okay, tiny bit of inaccuracy there, but that was because I was demonstrating rather than doing the test itself. Now we're doing the test itself. So all we're going to do is construct, using the set square and our compass, we're going to construct the perpendicular bisectors for each of the sides of the hexagon. So we'll start off with this side. We go right into the corner and we can make a mark above. But we can also at the same time do this line here. So we'll make a mark up there, and we'll make a mark there, which is going to be in exactly the same place. Now if we come to this one first, we can make a mark there, but we can also now concentrate on this one here. So make a very faint mark. Okay, and so now what we find is we've got our first bisector. So using our ruler, we can make a mark, our first line. That's our first bisector. Now the first thing that we notice, because it says here, what do you notice? And the first thing that we notice is that each corner can start making the bisector for two lines, because this corner here works for this line, but it also works for that line. So we've now started on this one by producing this line and this line, so, and this one here. So let's now carry that process on. If we go to this corner and we put our mark in there and then our mark down there, and what we can do now is we can draw that line and we can connect to there. So that's now the bisector for this line, and you'll notice that they've crossed. Okay, and a shape should start to emerge, but we will come to that in a minute. So we made a little bit of a slip here while we were at this corner here. What we should have done, we should have done the bisectors for this line as well. And now we can go to this corner and we can put a bisector in there, or an arc in there and an arc in there. But we can also do the arcs for this line. So put an arc there and an arc there. Okay, so, and we've got to remember which our arcs are, which ones they are. So there's our, it's this and it's this, so it's just there is the arc for this coming down, and we can draw that in faintly there. Okay. Next, we want our strike an arc for this one, and we'll start on that one. Okay, so we've got our and while we're at it, we'll do the arc for this one and the arc for that one. Okay, so next we will produce our second arc for this side. Oops, and our final arc for this side. So we can join those. They'll come across there. And then we can those. Just like that. So when we look at all of our lines, they don't meet in the centre. Okay, so that's all this is asking for. It's asking for you to make observations, what you notice. So the thing that I notice about this is that each corner will work for two different lines. I also notice that there's an awful lot of it's very, very busy in the centre, so it's very, very difficult to make things out. But I also know. So let's have a look at this. So it's a parallelogram, so it's four-sided. It means that all of the sides are parallel, but they're not square. So these are angles, rounded angles, rather than square. So that's what a parallelogram is. This is parallel to that, that is parallel to that. So let's do exactly the same thing, the perpendicular bisector for all the sides of the parallelogram, and we will and see what shape we form by the bisectors. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to widen it a little bit so that our marks are outside of the parallelogram. If the paper had been a bit larger, we might have been able to do that with this, or to make a larger arc so that your arcs are well away from this central bit. So that's what I'm going to do with this. So for this bottom side here, and for this side, so this corner will work for this side and that side. I'm going to strike an arc down there, and an arc up there, and then I'm going to strike an arc over here, and an arc over here. Okay, so coming to this corner, I'm going to do the same up there, the same down there, the same over here, and the same over there. And then I'm going to very, very quickly do the bisector for this line. And then I'm going to do the arcs for this line here. And again this here. So the bisectors here are going to take us to this point. And then we're going to do the final one, final corner. So we mark there, and then we come down to there, and then we come up to there and down to there. So connecting these up, what we find is we can do that, and then we come to this one here, and we can do that, and then what we find is our shape we've got a parallelogram, but instead of being that way round, it's now flipped on its end and it's made much smaller. So we've got an actual copy of this parallelogram, but it's turned on its side. Okay, so that's sheet number one. Now I can see from this that that somebody's already made quite a good attempt at copying those, but I can see there are inaccuracies. For example, this line here is much longer than this line here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to get that exactly right. So what I'll do first is I'll fold the paper so that we can just work around it without looking at the, or without looking at the other ones for now. And so this is what we've got. Okay, so to start with, we could use our set square or our ruler to measure the bottom line. And then all we're going to do is, that looks to me like it's 43 millimeters long. So all we need to do is draw a line over here that is 43 millimeters long. Now, what we can do if we want to make sure that that is absolutely accurate using our compass is we can put a little start point on that, just like that, and then we can go measure from that point to this point. So we know that we're very accurate, and then what we can do is we can use our compass just to verify that we've got the right length. So that's A and B. So if we were to just label this up, now you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it now just to make it easy for us to understand exactly what we're doing. Right, now what I want to do is I want to mark point C with the compass. So the way to do that is I put the compass point right on B there, and then I open it or close it to the point where it is exactly on C. Then I move my compass over and I put it onto our B there, and I mark an arc. I then come back to A, just there, and I put my compass in and I come out to C, and I get it so that our point just goes through C like that. Okay, you see that that is on exactly on C, and then I go back to our point A on our construction, and I do another arc. Oh, we've just made it. We've just managed to make it there. And then what we know is that that line from there to there will be exactly the right angle and exactly the right distance. So we've now made that line. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go to point D, because we've got A, B and C done. We're now going to do point D. And the way we can do that is we can go from, well, we can go from point A to start. Make sure that we're right in on that point. And then we can get our compass so that it goes to exactly where D is, just like that. And then we can put A onto our point there, or put that point there, and then we can make an arc up here. We then go to C on the original copy, just like that, and we take the compass out to D again, and we strike a little arc just like that. Then we come back to our C, the new C, and we do that. We make that little line there. Now we can draw that line in now. Alternatively, what we could do is go straight from C to point E. And so we measure that, and then we come across and we put our arc in there, and then we can go from point A to point E, and then we can mark that arc in there. Now, and then all we need to do is join the dots. Now, I've shown you that, but in reality, while you're just starting out, it's probably best to do one line at a time to avoid any confusion. Because all we need to do now is go from what would be our new D, we can go into the new E, and then of course we know that that is the final corner, whoops, and we can go straight back to our A. And so you can see that that is an accurate copy of this shape here. So it's exactly the same for this process here, for this shape, except there's more corners. But we're going to do this method again, which is called triangulation. It means you go from 2 points to a third point, so you end up with a triangle each time. And so what we'll do, we'll just start off by measuring this line here. I've already marked this up, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I've missed that one out there. We'll call that Z, whatever. So, in fact, no, we won't call that anything. We'll leave that without a name. So we will just measure this 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 33, and we'll just mark that in around about, we'll make sure we've got the same angle. So 33, 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3. I'll just put in a tag there so that we know that's the end. And we can measure that with our compass just to make sure that we're very, very accurate. So we check that, just check that, make sure that that compass is there, and then we'll just go from this corner, we'll mark another little tag, and yes, we're absolutely spot on there. So we've got A and G, or A to G, so we're going to go for B. So all we need to do is measure from A, and this is exactly the same process as before. We go to A, make sure our compass is going right through the centre of that join, and then we mark our arc just around where we think it'll be, and then we come to G and we do exactly the same thing, get into B there, and then we can come onto our join and make our little arc. We've just missed there, but we know where that would join. See that? You've got to make sure that your arc is always big enough to cover the area that you want it to cover, or to reach the point you want it to reach. So there we go. That's the bottom part of our star. And we just carry on that process now. So very, very straightforward. We're going to go from we want to widen, the wider your base is to your triangle, the more accurate it will be. So if we go from B and then to G, there's not a very wide base, so we wouldn't have a very accurate point here. So I would suggest we go from A and G to get this point C. And that's something that you'll learn with a little bit of experience, but there you go. So we take that mark there from our A, and we'll put that in, making sure this time we're big enough to definitely get there. And then we'll go from G, and if we come to our G on here, and there you go, we've got our nice cross there. So we'll just put that line in. And we're starting to take shape. So we'll go for our non-named one, and we'll use our new C and our A, because that's a nice wide base to get that point. That's what we'll do. So from A, and you can go from any 2 points. You can go from any 2 points that you want. But I find personally the wider you can make that base, the better. But some people would just make one triangle at a time and just use these two to find that, and then these two to find that, and so on. But that's up to you. Okay, so we come back to there and we get our next point. So just mark that point in. Oops. A tedious process, or a slow process, but never mind. Okay, so now we're going to get D, so we'll make that from this one and this one, because that's quite a nice base for that triangle there. So if we go from there, we get to D. And then if we come from there, and we get to D, you've got to be very careful when you're putting the point of your compass, the spike of the compass. Make sure you're right on that dot. There we go. We can mark that one in. Okay, so to get to this E, the convenient ones would be G and B really, I suppose. So that's what we'll use. Although some people might say, oh no, you should use these two here because that's part of that triangle. So I'll tell you what, we'll do that. We'll keep it as simple as we can. So go to E from there, that's about right. And then again from this point up here, get that exactly on that spot. I just put a little bit of a mark on there, and you can see that that mark's going straight through the centre of that corner. And then you do that, and that gives us that point. Oops, gone a little over there, so I might use the rubber, but it's not very good rubber, this, it's old. But as long as we know that that arc is actually the point, we might have just overshot a little bit, we'll get that sorted. And now we're going to do the final one. And so we're going to come from that point there to F. You can see that there. And so we'll mark that. And then we'll go from this point here to F again, or to that little corner. And we do that. Oh, we've missed a little. So let's come back to here and let's reconstruct that arc. There we go. And so when we join these dots, we'll find that we've made an exact replica of this. Okay, that's how we do it.